Hello everyone, welcome back to the Shepherd's Tech Lab. Let me start with a story which you may have lived already. You recently released a new functionality in production. All the testing was done, unit test, integration testing, UAT sign off is given, and finally the functionality is in production. As real usage started increasing, your support channel start lighting up. Users begin facing errors like DML exception, too many SOQL queries 101, too many DML statements, CPU time limit exceeded, and you're thinking, why don't we see this in testing? The reason is because of the production load. So today we will break this down and build a mindset and a system so that governor limit becomes something you predict and prevent, not something you panic and debug. In today's video, we are going to understand what are governor limits, key governor limits overview. Third, four different layer of proactive approach for the governor limit. Fourth, if limit still happens, what we can do. And finally, the architect solutions and the summary. What is governor limit? Governor limits are Salesforce way of protecting the platform. As you know, Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture, meaning multiple customers share the same infrastructure. So Salesforce enforce resource usage limits per transaction to make sure your org cannot consume the unlimited resources. Why it matters? Governor limits matter because they directly impact reliability of the records you save, reliability of a integration, the performance of a flow and a trigger, stability of your bash job, and overall user experience. Where do they hit most? They hit most in triggers, flow, integrations, bash job when data usage grows. Let's have a quick tour of major governor limits that we have. Let's talk about the most common governor limits. SOQL query limit. The classic error for this is too many SOQL queries 101. This usually happens when SOQL query is inside a loop. Query is repeated across layers. Flow keeps doing get records repeatedly. Multiple automations pile up in one transaction. The second most occurring is DML statement limit. The error that we get is too many DML statement 151. This happens because of the same reason. DML is inside your for loop. Flow repeatedly updates the record. Cascading update happens across object and you are updating record by record instead of bulk. Another governor limit error that we get is Apex CPU time limit exceeded. This is common when too much automation runs in a same save or because of recursion, heavy loops, non-selective queries returning a lot of rows and you're processing on it. Four layers of proactive monitoring and prevention. Please note that this is not the standard that we have four layers of proactive monitoring. This is something I have categorized for simplicity. First one is admin monitoring. There are three ways of monitoring this. First one is exception and error notification, debug logs, and monitor async health. Let's go one by one. Exception and error notification. If error happens, the right people should know quickly about it with context. So what we can do is we can enable or configure Apex exception emails, flow error emails, or fault path, integration error handling alert, the debug logs. Debug logs are powerful, but if you use them incorrectly, they become noise. Best practice is enable debug logs for small set of user only and enable it for a short time window. And in the debug log, the focus should be on identifying number of queries, DML statement, long execution blocks, or the recursion pattern. Monitoring async health. Asynchronous health is a massive proactive signal that many teams ignore. What we need to monitor is the failed batch jobs, queuable backlog, scheduled job failures, long running asynchronous processes, retrying patterns. Why it helps? Because if a synchronous job begins failing due to the limit, it means your org is near to the load thresholds and it will soon affect the synchronous transaction too. Developer proactive checks. Layer 2 is where developers prevent governor limit with good engineering habits and pattern. Developers can use selector pattern or they can also have a guard checkpoint. So why this matters? Because most governor limit issue come from query chaos, DML inside the loop, repeated automation, and lack of bulkification. So we can use selector pattern and guard checkpoints. So selector pattern means all your SOQL query live in one place. That is a selector. This makes the code clean and prevent accidental SOQLs in loop. For seniors as well, this enforces query discipline, consistent field set, and easier optimization. Let's check one of the pseudocode for selector pattern. So you can check over here. We have created a class account selector, and in this account selector class, you have method where you can get the list of accounts and map of account as well. You can also see in list of account, we have one checkpoint method called. So what this checkpoint method does is it counts each limit, each governor limit, and if it is nearing, then we can basically send out the alerts. Architect telemetry. Telemetry means you capture runtime signals like SOQL used, DML used, CPU time, heap usage, callout counts, context, etc. And you can basically track all this in either a custom object log, or you can have a platform event, or you can also use external monitoring tools as well. So the idea is you capture all the runtime usage and you log it into, let's say, a simple object, and then you create a report on it. Top 10 transaction by CPU, top 10 by SOQL, top 10 by DML, top 10 by failures. This helps the team to prioritize optimization. Instead of optimizing random code, you can optimize what actually costs the most. Layer is release and governance. It is important for the effective monitoring practices. Layer 4 is where architect prevent surprises before they reach to production. If your staging environment has representative data and automation, you can run bulk data load. You can have integration simulation, regression test transactions, load test for flows and triggers. Even simple performance test can catch, just like SOQL in loops, cascading updates, CPU hot paths, and heap size issues. Let's summarize everything in one simple view. If you proactively want to monitor the governor limit, there are four layers which we can use. One is admin monitoring, where you can have exception notification, debug logs, and monitor the async health. Layer 2 is developer proactive checks, where you can use selector pattern and you can have a guard checkpoint when nearing limit is there. Third layer is about architect telemetry, where you can log all the guard checkpoints into one object or into the platform event, and based upon that you will log the records if threshold is near to, let's say, 80% or 95%. Based upon that, you will create a dashboard which will include the top 10 reports. Fourth is the release and governance, which basically monitors the performance harness in every stage, risk review, and deployment checklist. This is how you go from reactive firefighting to proactive scalability. If this video helps you, please subscribe to the Shepherd's Tech Lab and share this video with your team. Thank you.